निरञ्जनं नित्यम् अनन्तरूपं भक्तानुकम्पाधृतविग्रहं वै ईशावतारं परमेशमेड्यं तं रामकृष्णं शिरसा नमामः. Namaste and welcome to our session on guided meditation. After 2 weekend break, we are back again. So let us sit down for meditation as usual. Sit upright, keeping your back, neck and head in a relaxed upright position. Visualize your whole body to be strong and healthy. Step by step, we will direct our attention to various limbs of the body, and as you do so, visualize that each part is strong, healthy, and full of a pure light. Starting with your toes, ankles, calf muscles, the knees, thighs, hips, stomach, back, shoulders, arms and elbows, wrist and your fingers, neck, the face, the head, and the whole body is strong, healthy, and permeated with the divine pure light. Now focus your mind on your breath. Inhale and exhale in a deep rhythmic manner. As you breathe in and breathe out, repeat the universal sound Om. In this way, breathe in and out in a deep rhythmic manner thrice. Now let us meditate for the welfare of all beings throughout the universe. May the Absolute Almighty Consciousness, that's the substratum of this universe, out of which all beings have come, by whom all are sustained, and into whom all of us will return. May that infinite pure consciousness of the nature of infinite existence, infinite knowledge, infinite bliss, that resides in the heart of every being, may He inspire and attract our mind away from the external material world and connect it to that infinite source of energy, purity, goodness, knowledge, bliss, and immortality. May He inspire us to seek the truth within ourselves. Your prayers and thoughts are powerful, and if you can inject your goodwill into it, your prayerfulness, and send it out to anyone, or for the matter, the whole universe, it reverberates and helps them too. So send out your prayers for the welfare of all. Visualize your thoughts going out to the right, to the left, in front, behind, above, below, with you as the center in all directions. Your prayers for the welfare of all are being sent out throughout the universe. Now withdraw your mind from the external world and visualize your own physical body, strong and healthy, filled with the divine light throughout the whole body, interpenetrating every cell of your body. Visualize your subtle body, the mental body, which overlaps the physical body and is finer than the physical body. Now visualize your knowledge body in the causal body of the nature of pure knowledge, which is even finer than your mental body. And beyond that, you visualize the infinite ocean of consciousness, nameless and formless, out of which the causal body and the subtle body and the gross body have come. In that ocean of consciousness, in the center of your heart, visualize a beautiful lotus, fully bloomed, full of freshness and fragrance. In the center of that lotus, visualize a flame, steady like a lamp kept in a windless place, spreading its radiance in all directions, illuminating every corner of your mind, every cell of your body. If you wish, you may replace that light with any divine form of your choice or the chosen ideal given to you by your spiritual teacher. Feel His living presence within your heart, His kindness and love and compassion, His grace, His eagerness to bestow all wonderful spiritual qualities in us. Visualize that the light emanating from this divine form is the light of knowledge that dispels the darkness of ignorance. It's the light of pure bliss that fills you with joy. It's the light of supreme peace that fills you with serenity and tranquility. It's the light of purity that fills you with holiness. It's the light of strength and fearlessness that empowers you with strength spiritually, morally, intellectually, emotionally, physically. Focus your whole mind on the Divine Personality. Feel that presence in the warmth. Commune with that Divine Form. Let that Divine Form occupy the whole of your mind. And in a spirit of surrender and prayerfulness, repeat the mantra that has been given to you by your spiritual teacher. Knowing that the mantra and the divine form are non-different, and also that you and the mantra and the divine are one. If your mind wanders away anywhere, gently bring it back to the object of your meditation. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tassat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. So as you practice your meditation with great concentration and devotion, and when you finish, you should feel that presence of the divine within you. Some inner contentment, some inner anchoring, some inner joy, some inner connection. That is what we are aiming to achieve through this concentrated practice, practice of concentration of mind within ourselves. And the idea is that we will carry this out in our everyday life and be aware of that connection and that presence in the midst of all activities. That is the test of the quality of your meditation. If it is only during your prayer time and the rest of the time in the midst of various activities, not even a once thought of this inner true self comes, that means we have not really been able to make a solid connection. So, what it means that we have to do more and more of it until during the day, somewhere in the midst of all activities, physically you're busy, suddenly that idea comes that within me is a wonderful source of energy. That is my higher nature. I should be anchored in that. And the purpose of life is to realize that truth. You'll find that even if once that thought comes, you'll feel a great joy that at least I'm right, correctly tuned to my idea. That joy comes. That is the joy of knowledge that you get. And the quality of your meditation is to be measured, if you want to measure it, by the frequency of how many times during the day, in the midst of your various activities, you feel and you're reminded of that inner anchor. And every time you do that, you'll find immediately your whole being gets centered within yourself. So we have to keep a little bit of watchfulness in our on this in the midst of our activities. And you might want to remind yourself in different ways. You might have put something on your phone, so every time you see a phone, there's something that reminds you, okay, let me reconnect within myself. Or a message pops up, something like that. Connect, micro meditation, 2 seconds or 15 seconds, I'll just gather myself within. So through habit, it becomes, through practice, it becomes a established habit. Now, what are we really trying to do? In this process of meditation, there's so many steps are there. Some of them are just preparatory, like sitting down, okay, breathing, sending out your prayers for the welfare of everyone. It's just trying to get your mind into the tune, body and mind into that framework where we will do something. That something is what we might say a connection to something within us, coupling to something. Okay, so we have tried to understand that our whole personality has got multiple dimensions. The grossest and the physical one is the body. Behind that and subtler than this is the mind, made of all ideas and knowledge and experiences that we have. Behind, even further than that, subtler than that, is a degree of intelligence, the buddhi, where the I sense comes. I am this, and I use this instrument of the mind to operate the body, so to say. Okay, but behind that, even that intelligence or this is a universal ocean of formless, nameless consciousness. That's the background of this wave that we are, that is the ocean. And not only one of us, that's the background of the whole universe. That absolute pure consciousness is called Brahman, God, Father in heaven, and all these names are given to there. We are really connected to that all the time. But ignorance is when we are not aware of that connection. So, just like the wave is always anchored in the ocean, but the wave doesn't understand that there's an ocean behind it. It thinks it's an individual wave, it has come out from somewhere, it's hanging around here in this world for some time, eventually it will disappear, it's got no clue where it's going to go. That type of ignorant existence is not a very high level of living. Okay. But if the same wave understood due to knowledge and acquired from the experiences of others who realized the truth, or out of his own experience, that look, behind me is that infinite ocean, which is so vast in compared to me that it's just out of this world, so to say. And we are made out of the same substance. The water in the ocean and the water in the wave is similar, H2O. So there's some different, there's definitely some identities there. But there's this problem that when so long as I identify myself as this wave, then I'm a little something that is drifting here and there at the mercy of this ocean, the winds, and whatever is there. But if I merge myself into the ocean, then the wave disappears, but I don't die really. I become that infinite being. And wow, the wonder, the beauty and the glory of that ocean, no wave can ever explain in any way. So it's something that cannot be expressed, but it can be experienced. And the method is to merge yourself into it. So those who are able to do that, they come back to us and tell this wonderful story of this infinite possibility behind every human being, behind every wave that is there. And they say that the real goal and the purpose or the highest goal of life could be to connect yourself and feel that oneness with that ocean. That is something great. It will take you beyond all death because the ocean never dies. Only the wave appears and the fear of death will go. It will take you beyond all ignorance. It's pure knowledge. It will take you beyond all type of suffering, misery. It is pure bliss. It is absolute freedom. It's purity. All the wonderful things that you think is deep inside us. That conviction has to be developed through repeated reading, satsang, understanding, contemplation until that idea becomes alive for us. Much more brighter than other things that's outside. Just like in a dark night, the stars look very bright. Then the moon comes out and the stars fade away when the brighter moon appears. And when the sun comes out in the morning, even the moon disappears. Likewise, right now, in our ordinary sense-bound world, when we are seeing things, hearing things from the outside world, it is like looking at some stars in some dark night. But when this knowledge begins to awaken within us, in the moon, then you feel that inner something. And your attention goes to the moon and not to the stars anymore. But imagine what will happen when the sun rises and everything is revealed in this beauty and glory. Then and then you can understand and appreciate this beautiful nature. Otherwise, we are just wandering around in the dark when we are operating through the sense. So when we try to educate ourselves in this way, then this desire to have that experience awakens in our mind. And our attention shifts away from the stars and the moon to the sun, from the external world to the internal world. And when that conviction becomes very strong and the ideal becomes alive, then you'll find that the mind will naturally go towards this goal, because the mind has this habit of wanting the best. So once it finds that the best is within us, then it will give up the tendency to run after outside things. So this is where satsang, study of scriptures, deep contemplation, reflection, and all those type of things helps. But we just don't want to understand things. That will make us a philosopher and a pandit, where we can read so many texts, there are so many Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and Brahma Sutras, and all that. They try to present to us the information and knowledge as a conceptual something. So if you keep on reading and studying, you'll find that in your mind only, some more and more ideas are being developed, new concepts are coming. There's an Atman, there's a Brahman, and how they're interrelated and all that. And as you keep on contemplating, the picture becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. You might have a beautiful idea of the truth, but it is an idea only, it's a concept, it's not an experience. But remember, whoever wrote those books, the Gita and the Upanishads and all that, they did not start with a conceptual understanding. They had that experience first, and that experience, when they tried to communicate to others, they took the help of this human language as much as possible. So at that time, maybe it was in Sanskrit, and they put it in a way. Now, the idea that was in their experience is what they're trying to communicate to us through the vehicle of the language. And it could be stories and parables and different ways of explaining the truth. What we are wanting, our goal is to experience what they experienced, not to understand what they're trying to teach us. So, if we are not very clear, then we might just study the books and things and have a sort of intellectual joy. Your intellect is helped, but you are not experiencing something. Like you might be reading about honey forever, and you can give a beautiful lecture about it. But if you have not tasted it, you don't know anything about it. Likewise, we can talk about God and the Atman and Brahman and all that forever, have wonderful discourses and discussions and all that, and you'll have some joy out of that. You feel good about that because knowledge is uplifting, elevating. That I'm not an ordinary little being that was born, but really I'm something wonderful. That itself is an uplifting idea, but it's not having that experience. Now, meditation is about trying to have that experience. And to have that experience, you have to bring some connection. Just like the honey has to be put on your tongue. Some connection happens there, and in that connection comes an experience. Otherwise, if it's outside there, you can't experience it. So, likewise, some connection has to happen between this, whatever we want to say inside us is the art. And meditation is the technique by which this mind, which is always sort of going outward, connected to outward things, we want to restrain that tendency, turn it around, direct it within us, so that ultimately that connection happens. Now, it's not that that connection is not there at all. Otherwise, there will be a dead body, and I won't be able to speak, and you won't be able to hear. But that coupling, that connection is a very weak coupling, so to say. So, a little bit of that power comes, and which is the knowledge that we are experiencing. Little bit of that bliss of the Atman percolates through our sense enjoyments, and we say it's a beautiful flower, it's a nice food or something. But the bliss is coming from inside, not from the food or the flower. You have to remember that. The knowledge comes from inside, not from some textbook or some teacher. They are facilitators. They trigger that. But the knowledge always comes from inside. So likewise, that everything that we are seeking for is within us. That is a very important idea that we have to develop a strong conviction. Otherwise, the tendency of the mind is there because we think it's out there. So if I get that, I'll be happier. If I have this, I'll be more knowledgeable by reading the books. No, the real book that has to be read is the book of the soul within us. And meditation is that process by which we directly connect with that source. So in that process, there are various aids that can help us make that connection, so to say. So within us is that infinite powerhouse of energy, let us think about. Running all the time, pure, perfect. It's unlimited, eternal, immortal. That is the Atman, whatever is, something is there running. And then we have got these layers of the causal body and the subtle body and the gross body, and the energy flows through that. And if these three bodies are pure, then the light and energy comes out in abundance. But if it is not so pure, then it's trying to come through, but very little comes out. Just like I keep on giving this example of things are connected to a 240 volt electrical system. Now, some bulbs will grow very, very bright, like 1,000 watts. Others maybe 100 watts, 60 watt, 40 watt, 25 watt, 15 watt. It's not that the power behind them is different. It's the same power, but it depends on the capacity of the bulb to manifest and draw out of it. So that's why this purification of the mind is the work that we have to do. It's not a positive work that you'll bring the Atman inside there. It's a negative work that you'll remove the impurities that are there. And as you do that, that light shines brighter and brighter. Now, this is a very, very powerful and wonderful idea. It's a very, very powerful idea in the sense it is about self-empowerment. Not that you have to go and look for some help from outside, from somebody. If you have understood this idea, then you'll feel so good about yourself that I'm not a miserable little being, a sinner or something born in this world, and all this karma and everything you might want to say that is totally blocking me and I'm doomed and there's no help for me. No, this idea will so much empower you that you say, I can be anything and everything. The infinite ocean is behind me. Now, the work that is behind that I have to do is to remove all those things that are blocking it. That's why Christ in the Bible says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." As the mind and the heart are purified, the light within shines. So it's a very, very uplifting idea, isn't it? We are one with the infinite being of the universe, but we are not feeling that, experiencing it now. While we are discussing this, you are having that idea. Concepts are developing in your head. It might remain there for a while. As long as it remains, you will feel good. Afterwards, the world will jump onto you and push this aside. Then you've forgotten yourself. Every time you remind yourself, feel good. So, how we can maintain an undercurrent of that idea of our divine nature in the midst of all activities? That would be fantastic, isn't it? That means we are anchored into ourselves all the time. How do we, are there any methods by which we can do that? Well, this is what meditation is about. That in a intense way, you commit your whole time and energy to that process of establishing that connection, morning and evening. Okay, that's very, very important. Otherwise, it just mind keeps going out there. But in the midst of the day, you'll try to maintain a degree of that alertness and awareness. During meditation, we have talked about all these various techniques of making the body calm, making the breath calm, pacifying the whole world by sending out a prayer for everyone, your friends and enemies and everyone, so to say. And then you withdraw your mind from the outside world, develop that nice perception, understanding that is, I'm not only a physical body, I'm a mental body, I'm a consciousness, spiritual body, and behind me is that ocean of consciousness. In that ocean of consciousness is some divine form that we are trying to say. Today, I'll talk a little bit about that because that helps to make us make the connection. The reality behind it is nameless and formless. That means our mind is conditioned to action, function through some names and forms. But the reality is nameless and formless. So if you try to meditate on that nameless and formless Brahman, it becomes very abstract and empty, and you suddenly mind doesn't have any anchor to hold on to. So it's going here and there. It's very easy to say make your mind empty, but you can't just make it empty because you take something out, something else simply jumps in there. That's all. So we try to understand that this mind which we have, which is constantly being bombarded by the senses from outside. So we shut that off. That means you go into a forest or go into a quiet room, no one is disturbing you, so senses are not being constantly stimulated. That we can do. And then we try to calm down that inner, all the thoughts and memories and ideas that are sitting in the subconscious of the mind, which are constantly bubbling up and coming to that. We want to pacify that out. But you'll find that they keep on coming from somewhere. Just like one thought latches into another one and another one, another one. Before one finishes at the tail, another one takes it there. It's like one snake catching the tail of another one, and you're just going all over the place. So we understand the psychology that the mind functions through names and forms, nama and rupa. Thousands of names and thousands of forms are constantly bubbling up in there. What we try to do is we'll give it one name and one form. So rather than having thousands, you have one, but you have to keep your mind in that loop. Okay. So yes, this is much better than the situation before, but it's a step towards going to that nameless and formless one. What form we should pick up to meditate on? That is your chosen idea. That form, that aspect of the divine, which is my higher self. That is the way to so. God or the deity that we are meditating in our heart, like Krishna, Rama, is not some outsider. He is our own higher self. So when you go beyond the idea that I am the body, I go beyond the idea that I am the mind, then I will feel and experience that presence which I have been meditating on. And he's not some outside thing. He's my own higher self. That is the very important idea. So a spiritual teacher, when he gives the diksha, the mantra, identifies the particular chosen ideal for that aspirant. We are all constituted slightly differently. So the spiritual teacher will tell, this is your chosen ideal. Meditate on Christ, or on Rama, or Krishna, or on Shiva. You might think that, oh, I like Krishna very much. But your guru might say, no, 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 no. I can see deep within you, you are constituted in a different way. Shiva is the ideal, and you have to follow that, and you'll find that that will open the path more for you, faster for you, because that's how we are constituted, not in this life, for many, many lives. And that is the door, and the key will be given to you also. So the key is the mantra. Okay, name and form, they're interrelated. So if you see somebody, immediately that person's name pops in your mind. Or if somebody mentions somebody's name and that person is not there, immediately in your mind that form appears. So this is correlation. We want to use this understanding of how the mind functions and put it to a spiritual advantage by giving it a divine form and a divine name. Okay, but the divine form is just not any form. It is our own higher self. We are something more than this body, more than this mind here and now. And I'll narrate to you an incident in the life of Swami Shivanandaji Maharaj. Okay, I might have done this before, but it's a wonderful way to reinforce that we don't know ourselves really. Okay, and this is what is called ignorance. Let us enlighten ourselves. And those who had that intuition and that spiritual eyes open, the Divya Chakshi open, they see more than the physical person, the mental person, they see the spiritual person. So this is a little incident that happened in Mahapurush Maharaj's life in the book For the Seekers of God. You'll find that when people would come to him in the morning in his room, naturally to make pranams and all that, you'll find this elderly Swami, who is the president of the Ramakrishna mission, disciple of Sri Ramakrishna himself. He is saluting them with folded arms, hands like that. So people would feel, we have come to our guru or somebody, why you don't feel so comfortable when that person is saluting you? So some person objected, Maharaj, this is not nice. We don't feel very comfortable. Why do you salute us? We have come to pay obeisance to you. And listen to the answer that he gives. He says, what can I do? When people come to me, I see the divine form peculiar to their inner nature. I don't see them. And when I salute the divine form, and then only the divine form fades away, and I see your physical form, and I identify you, and then I can have this conversation. How are you? And all that. So simple, some things there. But let's analyze this, very powerful. The person who came had no idea about the divine form that he is, because his mind is anchored at a very physical level. He is aware of himself as a physical, mental being. But the Swami, he is at a very high spiritual plane. So when he sees, he doesn't see the physical plane person. He sees the spiritual, which is there in that person, even though that person knows it or not. Likewise, even though we might not be aware of our divine nature, divine aspect of it, it is there. It's just that we are tuned to our lower frequency, to say, lower station, where we see ourselves as a physical being, as a human being, and with all our problems. But that doesn't mean that divinity is not there. Okay, that is the powerful thing that you have to realize and say, whether I know or not, something is there very profound within me. That divine aspect is our chosen ideal. Okay, so when we go to a spiritual teacher and say, can you please help me connect myself to the ultimate? He said, okay, let me do a little bit of diagnosis. And he sees within you and says, okay, this is a chosen ideal and this is the mantra. And the process by which he gives that is a spiritual initiation, diksha. And it's not only some words or some mantras. Embedded in that mantra is a spiritual energy that can uplift the mind to that high station where the divine experience can be had. So those who are very sincere spiritual seekers, yes, you can do a little bit of this meditation like we teach you guided meditation. But for the very sincere seekers, you'll find that getting that support and help, spiritual initiation is a great boost. It gives a purpose and direction also. Otherwise, what happens is you're doing all your so many varieties of spiritual disciplines. Durga Puja is there, Saraswati Puja, Lakshmi Puja, Shivratri, Janmashtami, Diwali, and all that is there. So many aspects of God you are worshipping, but it's not anchored onto one of them. Okay. So what happens is when the teacher gives you the diksha and he gives you a chosen ideal, he gives you that understanding that your chosen ideal is the very embodiment of all gods and goddesses. Sarva Deva Devi Swarupaya. Okay, that means now you just lock onto yourself one, knowing that all the divinities that you can find in any temple or throughout the universe are expressions of your own chosen idea. So you just can worship all of them through your own chosen idea. And the mantra is that key, so to say, to that door. There are many doors, many divine forms, but he gives you the key that is for you, that will help you because you are constituted as such. And in that way, you try to approach the truth now. Now you have to keep in mind that the divine is a pure consciousness, a living being. It's not like a photo or a statue that is sitting down there and you're trying to imagine a picture there. No, it's full of life. Actually, that which is called life in me is an expression of that life. If that is not there, this body won't be alive. This knowledge that is there is really coming from there. That happiness that we feel comes from there. Everything comes from within. And you should feel that that living presence is alive in the sense that when you pray to it, it responds to you. It's That's very, very important. It's a living thing that will being. It's a living being that responds to us, to our prayers. And if we can make that connection, most of the work will be done from inside. That's why Sri Ramakrishna says, you take one step towards me, I'll take 10 steps towards you. He is the chosen ideal, dwells in our heart, and he says, knock on the door a little bit and we'll open it. That's why Christ says, knock and it shall be opened unto you. Seek and thou shalt find it. Ask and it shall be given to you. This knocking, seeking, and asking is what we are doing through our prayer and meditation. But knowing that this mind's capacity to discover the infinite is not possible. This mind itself is a product, it's a limited thing. But if we can connect ourselves and resonate ourselves through that seeking to the being that's inside us with the idea of not understanding it, but with the goal of experiencing it, handshake, so to say, making a connection, feeling the embrace, feeling that type of thing, not just knowing people from a distance. We don't want to know God from a distance. We want to come in touch with Him. We want to be very close to Him. And ultimately, you will find that you are He only. But that light was being reflected in this mirror, and this mirror has an image which is called the body. God created man in His own image. So the image is trying to go back to its source. We want to make that connection. So it's very important in meditation to feel that living presence, knowing that every thought, every word, every deed teaches me. Always be doing whatever we do with that awareness of Him being present there, keeping a watch, guiding you, talking to you, looking after you, protecting you, all those things. That presence is something we want to cultivate in the hour of meditation and carry out in the day-to-day activity. Morning and evening, day in, day out, if we do slowly, that mind begins to become pure. So repeat the mantra, that becomes pure and pure, and then what we are trying to understand through our mind and visualize in our imagination becomes an experience. Remember, we want that experience. We don't want to understand it. There are many people who have had the experience, but they never try to explain it. They were maybe illiterate people. They never wrote a book or gave any talk, but they had that experience. See, so intellect helps you, but it should not become a stumbling block where you think that everything can be achieved through intellect only. The heart goes beyond the intellect, and we want that heart to open. And in that heart, not the physical heart, that means heart means Hridayam, the center, the core of our being, where we are, that spiritual dimension of our being or personality, so to say. We want to make ourselves connected with that. Now we can do it in this life, or you can do it in 100 lives later. But you can't escape it because that is your own nature. Just like you can't jump out of yourself, likewise you can't depart from this truth that we are that infinite being. But we can save ourselves a lot of problems and suffering by making this connection. Sooner the better. So practice your meditation with great determination, patience, and perseverance with that goal of experience, knowing that the reality within us is a living reality. It responds to prayers. Talk to it in your own language. Pray it, but it must come from the heart, deep, not from the lips only. And you'll find the response comes. Until next Saturday, meditate well, keep safe. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.